The scratching began just after the last cicada fell silent, a faint rasp against the fragile hanji paper of the outer wall. Hyun, exhausted by days of unending ritual and grief, shifted on the cold, ondol floor of the morning hall. The flickering oil lamp cast long, dancing shadows, making the solemn, draped figure of his abuji seem to stir. It was past midnight, the deepest hour of the vigil, and the ancient family rule echoed in his weary mind: never engage with sounds from outside the morning hall after midnight. But the scratching persisted, a tiny, insistent clawing, as if something desperately wanted in. His breath hitched, a cold knot forming in his stomach, as he slowly, reluctantly, turned his head towards the sound. The scratching, though soft, seemed to vibrate through the very timbers of the old hanok, a direct assault on the sanctity of the morning. It was the winter of a late Joseon year in Cheongcheong province, a season already heavy with the burden of famine and illness, now deepened by the sorrow of his abuji's passing. Yi-Hyeon, the youngest son, bore the primary duty of keeping vigil, a sacred responsibility passed down through generations. His Eomeoni, frail and weeping, rested in the anbang, relying on him. The rules were clear, ingrained since childhood. During a morning vigil, especially for a patriarch, the family's spiritual defenses were paramount. Any distraction, any engagement with the outside world could open a door to unseen dangers. But after 3 sleepless nights, his grief-addled mind was a hazy fog, making the line between duty and curiosity dangerously thin. The silence that followed the scratching was almost worse, a heavy, waiting stillness that pressed in on him. The waiting stillness was finally broken by a different sound, a soft, almost imperceptible rustle from the other side of the paper door that led to the outer yard. It wasn't scratching this time, but a gentle, sustained pressure, as if something were slowly leaning against the flimsy barrier. Yi-Hyeon's skin prickled. He knew he shouldn't move, that he should simply close his eyes and pray. But the exhaustion had stripped away his resolve. He felt compelled, drawn by an irresistible dread. Slowly, his fingers trembled as they found a small tear in the fragile hanji, a tiny hole no bigger than his thumbnail. He pressed his eye to it, peering into the moonless night of the madang. What he saw drained the blood from his face, freezing the air in his lungs. A tall, slender figure in gleaming white sobog, standing motionless. But where a head should have been, there was only a smooth, featureless orb, like a pale, polished egg. And as he watched, the smooth head tilted, as if sensing his gaze, and a faint creak echoed from the great wooden daemun. The creak of the daemon was followed by the unmistakable sound of soft, shuffling footsteps on the earth of the madang. It was inside. Yi-Hyeon recoiled from the door, his heart hammering against his ribs, every nerve screaming for him to flee. But he couldn't. His ebeoji lay just meters away, and his duty chained him to this sacred space. A chill deeper than the winter air seeped into the ondol floor, radiating up through his hemp durumagi. The oil lamp, which had burned steadily for nights, now sputtered and dimmed, casting the morning hall into near darkness. He heard a soft, almost ethereal rustle, closer now, just outside the inner door to the anbang. A faint, sweet scent, like dried persimmons, wafted into the room, a scent utterly out of place in this hall of sorrow. Then, a small polished stone, One of the altar offerings rolled with a soft click from its place beside the incense burner, coming to rest precisely at the foot of his Abeoji's shrouded form. The Dalgyalguijin was not merely present, it was desecrating. The desecration of the offering was a clear challenge, a violation that sent icy fear through Yi-Hyeon's veins. He grasped the cold, polished wood of the floor, his knuckles white. The rustling sound grew closer still, no longer outside the door, but just on the other side of the thin hanji partition separating the main mourning hall from the smaller ambang. He could almost feel the unnatural cold emanating through the paper. Then a new sound, far more horrifying than the scratching or shuffling, emerged. A soft, whimpering cry, like a lost child, followed by a faint, rasping whisper. Yi-Hyeon, Yi-Hyeona. The voice was a spectral imitation, thin and distorted, yet undeniably mimicking his Abuji's familiar tone, calling his name with an unsettling sweetness that turned his blood to ice. It was a mockery, a perversion of the deepest bond, attempting to lure him, to break his filial duty. The Dalgyalguijin wasn't just lurking, it was playing a cruel, insidious game. The chilling imitation of his Aboji's voice was the turning point. It pierced through Yi-Hyeon's exhaustion and grief, igniting a furious resolve. This was no mere wandering spirit. This was a malevolent force bent on desecrating his family's honor, on corrupting the sacred mourning. He recalled his Eomeoni's somber warnings about the fragile veil between worlds during such solemn rites, and the absolute necessity of maintaining respect and ritual to keep evil at bay. His own lapse, his foolish glance through the hanji, had created this vulnerability. He had broken the ancient rule, and now the consequences were unfolding, threatening not just his safety, but the peaceful passage of his Abuji's soul. As the spectral whisper repeated his name, closer now, a long, thin shadow stretched beneath the ambang door. He knew he had to act. There, on the low altar table, burned the small oil lamp, the vigil flame, a sacred fire. It was his only weapon, a beacon against the encroaching darkness. Gripping the oil lamp, its flame now a fierce, small sun in his shaking hand, Yi-Hyeon lunged towards the ambang door. Just as his fingers touched the wooden frame, the hanji paper of the door tore with a wet, ripping sound. A long, slender arm, draped in white sobog, snaked through the opening, reaching for his Abuji's shrouded form. Before the Dalgyalguijin could touch the deceased, Yi-Hyeon thrust the lamp forward. The sacred flame met the spectral form with a searing hiss. A sound, not a scream, but a rush of cold air escaped the featureless head. The white sobog, where touched by the fire, shriveled and blackened, emitting a sickening, sweet rotten odor. The Dalgyalguijin recoiled sharply, its slender body twisting with impossible speed. The arm retracted, leaving behind a scorched, gaping hole in the hanji. The air grew colder still, thick with a lingering wrongness, but the direct, physical threat had been repelled. The door slammed shut with an echoing bang, leaving a profound, unsettling silence. The resounding slam of the door left Yi-Hyeon trembling, not just from adrenaline, but from a profound chill that had settled deep in his bones. The Dalgyalguijin was gone, driven away by the sacred fire, but its presence had left an indelible mark. The sweet, cloying scent of decay still clung to the air, mingling with the acrid smell of burnt paper. The small offering stone remained at his Abuji's feet, a stark reminder of the attempted desecration. Yi-Hyeon spent the rest of the night meticulously cleaning, repositioning every offering, sweeping away the dust that now felt somehow dirtier, tainted. He patched the torn Hanji door as best he could, but the scorched edges remained, a permanent scar. His duty was fulfilled, the immediate danger averted, but the integrity of the Mourning had been breached. He knew his Aomeoni would sense it, a subtle wrongness in the atmosphere, a lasting vulnerability that would forever cast a shadow over their grief. The chill remained, a constant, quiet hum beneath the surface of the room. The sun eventually rose, painting the eastern sky in hues of soft gray and pale pink. But for Yi-Hyeon, the dawn brought no true warmth. The mourning rituals continued, the lamentations of family and neighbors filling the hanok once more. But the sanctity of the vigil had been irrevocably scarred. He had saved his Abiji's passage from immediate corruption, fulfilling his filial duty in the face of impossible terror. Yet, the price of his momentary lapse, his transgression of the ancient rule, was a permanent haunting. Every shadow seemed deeper, every creak of the old timbers held a new, sinister echo. He would forever feel the lingering chill, a constant reminder that the boundary between their world and the unseen was thinner than he'd ever imagined. And once broken, some doors can never truly be sealed again, leaving a silent, unseen vulnerability that would forever cling to their family, a quiet hum of wrongness that only those who knew could truly feel. The memory of that featureless, egg-like head and the distorted whisper of his father's voice would haunt his waking hours and his dreams, a chilling testament to the power of ancient rules and the terrifying cost of disrespecting them.